Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to start a work in progress series of converting this Roxy Street Fighter Pop Culture Shock statue into Bowsette. Now Bowsette is basically Bowser from Mario Brothers. That's a female now. It's kind of more of an internet thing. I think it has something to do with the crown. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm going to kind of explain how this came about. I think it's going to be a fun project too. Plus I needed a new item where I could get into the garage and chop up with some other items this weekend. And actually have something at night that I could work on when I'm done with all my main projects for commissions. So it's going to be a good video series too. Something a little bit like a what if type character. So this Roxy statue I put on a pre-order like, I don't know. I think I did this pre-order a year and a half ago. And it was actually for somebody else. And then the whole entire time it took for this to come out, they sort of backed out. And I was kind of stuck with it at the moment. And when I got it in the mail, it was defective, so I sent it back to Sideshow because now they're the distributor. It took them like 3 or 4 months for them to find a replacement. So I got it, and then I talked to somebody else. They were interested in it, but then they backed out, so I'm kind of stuck with it. I own the Poison version, which is the main character. I love that version. That's in my display case, but this one I'm kind of like stuck with. So I didn't really know what to do with it. So I talked to a friend, and I said, you know, I wanted to take this statue and convert it into, I think it was that Dragon Ball Z character. And they said, well, that character is really not that popular anymore. This Bowsette is very popular now, and it probably this statue would fit the character more. So after doing some research and looking on, I said, you know what, it should be a fun project. Let's run with it. Because now that I realize it too, this character I've seen on DeviantArt a lot, and I never really paid attention. I go on DeviantArt to look at a lot of, you know, superhero drawings, a lot of digital artists that do 3D renders, also 3D rendering hair sculpts, 3D rendering coloring of faces. So I like to look at a lot of stuff on the DeviantArt, and I see a lot of these pictures too, but I never paid attention. So there's even cosplay girls that have this outfit on now too. I also looked online this morning that supposedly somebody did Smash Brothers. Like I guess it's like a skin mod already. So and I guess Nintendo actually rumors that they might put the character in. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I figure let's go with it. Let's run with it. So what we got to do is she does have a couple versions where she has like this skirt on. And we don't want to do that version because we don't want to cover up these legs because this Roxy statue has really thick hips and legs and we want to keep and show all that. So we're going to kind of follow this version mostly, you know, kind of like the bathing suit version. Like this version here too, you know, with the spikes and everything. I might do my own little take on things here and there because when I understand everybody does their own little take, so kind of I could have a lot of freedom of doing what I want to do. So we're just going to kind of run with it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put Roxy over onto the airbrush booth, which will be a little bit clearer so you can see. I'm going to explain what we're going to do, and then after that we could get into the garage. I'll show you how I break off the hair and kind of how we're going to start chopping it up and planning stuff, and then we'll just go from there. Okay, so here's Roxy. You can see she's a really great sculpt, and I think it's going to work out pretty good. So we have to do our plan of attack. Now, usually when I get stuff and I do customizing, if it's a brand new item out of the box, it's a little bit easier because you don't have to actually do repair work and then custom work because I get a lot of damaged stuff too. So this one's right out of the box, so it's just a matter of cutting pieces, sanding stuff down, and then re-sculpting. So one of the first things is her hand is removable. The Roxy statue came with the whip, and I think the whip would have been perfect for this custom, but she has the bat. So I think if you guys have any you know, ideas in the comments, I'm thinking if, you know, like maybe Peach or in Mario Brothers there's any kind of scepters, maybe I could put a scepter in her hand, or maybe I could find another hand in my box of parts and switch out something, or maybe I can give her something where she's holding a Mario doll or something. I don't know. I'm not really worried about the hand right now. That's kind of like one of those things, as I'm working on her, if something pops in my head, I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, I'll add it down the line. So we'll see what happens. Now, the way she's broken down is the hat comes off, and that right there is perfect. We don't even have to worry about chopping up the hat, and we got a nice, basically bald head that we can actually sculpt the hair, add the crown and horns. So that's actually a great start. Now, one of the things too about this is it's a change of face, not a change of head. So the face comes out, and then this face goes in. So when I first got the statue, I got two of these faces, and then I didn't get this one. But like I said, so the person backed out right now, so we have a nice, good, clean statue. So we're going to use a smiling face for her. I think that'll be pretty cool. Now, I'm not going to strip any paint off this statue. I think the paint's fine. I will strip the paint off this head, though, before we start putting it together, because I just like to make sure I get all clean eyes and down to the bare resin in case they use the thick clear coat because it is a little shiny. So I want to get back down to the actual resin on the face at least. Now, one of the other things too is we got to start planning out how we're going to work out the hair and body. So we're going to have to break off the hair first. The hair is going to have to be broken off. So I think it's glued in up here, and it's also glued over there on the back of her. So we have to kind of get in with a screwdriver and break it off, and hopefully we don't break off too much of the stuff, because sometimes glue is very strong from factories in China, and you can actually break stuff. Now the hair is actually a great start. I think the hair we don't have to do much work to. So you see these prongs of the hair right here. Basically I'm going to cut off the hair with a saw, and then what I'll do is I'll try to re-sculpt it to kind of bring it down to a point that's a little bit shorter. We don't need to use all this hair, you know, so we're going to take all this off because we have to have room for the shell and the tail coming out too. So we have a nice good back area for the shell, as you can see in here. So I think it's going to work out great. This should be a really good custom. And then once we get the hair off and we start working out, this hand is going to be the biggest problem right here, because this is probably sculpted separately and then glued in the factory. So I can't really work all this out and work in here and all that with this being on here. So we got to make this a removable arm. So I'm pretty sure this was glued in. So we're going to saw it off here, and then we'll make a key to actually put this in at the end. We either will glue it in at the end or we'll make it magnetized. We'll see how we progress on that. And then once all this stuff is broken off and we're ready to go, we'll just sand down the shorts. We'll rip this off because this is just cloth. And then we can start sculpting up the outfit, and we can do all the spikes and all that. Now, as far as the spikes go, I have all these stainless steel earrings. You use them for belly button spikes, ears, nose, and all that stuff. You get them on eBay, and they're really good for actually making spikes on items. So we're going to have real metal spikes on her too, which would be good. So it's going to be like a latex outfit, real metal spikes, and then it should look pretty cool. So next step is we're going to go in the garage. I'm going to show you how I break off the hair, and then how we saw off the arm, and then we're going to add it into rotation with some other items I got to Dremel and chop up this weekend, so I can actually have this as an item at night now when everything else is done. Okay, so I had the camera rolling, and I figured it would just be easy putting a screwdriver behind it and popping it out, and literally I'm there wiggling, and it wasn't coming out. So I figured let's stop the camera and do a little bit more of a study, and sure enough, it seems like there's a metal rod behind this hair going into her back, and there might be a rod over in here. So like if I'm putting the screwdriver in here, it wiggles a little bit, but it's not really coming out, and I'm afraid I might start cracking up the back of the body, and I don't want to go that far with it. So I think what I'm going to have to do is we're going to have to do a little bit of Dremel work back in here, and hopefully maybe that'll loosen some stuff up. I don't care if the rod is stuck in the body. I want to get it out of the hair. Because I got to kind of do, and I don't mind about Dremeling here, but then I'm also worried about up here. But I think if I get this part back here loosened up, this part will come off a little bit easier. So I think I'm going to kick on the Dremel. I'm going to Dremel out this, and then hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier depending on how far this rod is in there. Okay, so the engineering on this was actually not bad at all. I think they did a good job with this. So you can kind of see that this piece was like really in the back of her, like so, casted up. So it's casted, the metal rod is actually casted in the body, and then the hair is attached afterwards. So I guess that's how they work it. And this piece was casted up in there. At first I thought the rod actually was one whole piece of rod that was solid. I was like, oh man, I was never going to be able to get that out. I would have had to kind of like saw it off here and saw it off there. But when I got this piece over here, it started to wiggle. Like it would turn like so. Then I realized that, okay, I didn't have much more meat to go, so I Dremeled that all there, and I did the same thing here. So we're at a good position now. All I'm going to do next is I'm probably going to saw off this arm, because I'm pretty sure this is just glued in here. I'm at least hoping, hopefully there's nothing really gluing this hand in there. I'm not really sure yet, but we could kind of, it might be a little bit glued in. I'm not really sure. I'm hoping it's not, but we're going to take a test anyway. We're going to saw off this arm, and then hopefully this will come out. If there is any glue in there, we'll probably have to kind of see if we can use some glue remover, and maybe that'll help. We'll see. I don't know, worst case scenario, I can always just rebuild it. Okay, so awesome. It wasn't glued in. It's just a hand like so. So that worked out pretty good. So this is going to make life a lot easier. So probably what I can do is we're either going to make this magnetized arm going in, or I'll set it up where I just glue it in at the end. It might just end up gluing in this one at the end. I don't think it needs to be magnetized. The other arm with the hand will work out something different. So next step is, now that we got basically the bare body going, we're going to drum out all the shorts, and we're going to basically bring her back to raw form, and then we'll start sculpting out the outfit. I think what I'm going to have to do is, before we do the outfit, we might have to work out the magnet with this hand, or the peg at least, so we could glue it in at the end. So this way, when I start sculpting the outfit, I can actually utilize this hand going in and out and create a little bit of wrinklage around the hand going on that outfit. So I think that's where we're at right now. So I'm going to have to sand this down. We'll chop up the hair once I start working on some of my other items, and we'll come back and hopefully we can start plugging away on getting some details worked out on her. Okay, so it's been a long day in the garage, and I actually added this inward rotation today on a bunch of other stuff. So still got a lot more drumming to do on a lot of other projects, and then keying stuff, but I figured we might as well just get this going too. So whenever I have specific bits in my drill, my Dremel tool here, instead of going and changing it in and out for that one project, I bring all my projects in that I'm, like if I'm using this tile bit cutter right here, what I'll do is I'll grind out this piece, and then I'll go on to my next piece, and I'll grind out that piece, I'll grind out this piece, and then when I'm going to go on to this coarse sandpaper piece, I'll take out this project, I'll grind this down, I'll grind that down, and so it's easier. Instead of sitting there changing it for one specific item, I'm grinding out all the items into that specific tool. So it was easier to do this. So I'm pretty much finishing up a lot of projects with this bit, and I'm going to kind of just grind out a little bit more in here, grind out a little bit underneath there. I kind of missed a spot, a little bit over here. So this way, when I kind of rebuild this area, it'll actually look a little bit better than just flat right here. We'll kind of bring some muscle and some, you know, little detail in there. Also over here, what happened is, as I was grinding out this area here, it was kind of like a hollow area, and these pieces started flaking off. So I just grinded that around here because this leg is actually glued into this body. So that's pretty much why you see that's kind of harder over there and all messed up compared to here, because I was able to kind of grind this down a little bit and then use some really coarse sandpaper and smooth out this area. But this right here is going to need some A's epoxy work. So what I'm going to do is finish up my projects, Dremel out this, get this detailed up, wash this up at the end of the night, and the next day I'm working on A's stuff. We'll pop her back out. We'll start working on her. So the goal is, we're going to rebuild the whole bottom area here, and then we're going to build up the breast size a little bit more, and then we're going to start working out the outfit. Once we get the outfit basically lined up and we can get the arm removable and touching the outfit with wrinkles and all that, then we can work on the boots, we can work on the spikes, work on the spikes up here to change a bit arms and all that, get the head situated, and then we'll focus on the head and hair last, as well as the shell and the tail too last. We have to focus on the main body first. Once this is ready to go, everything else should just start going smoothly. So I'm going to just finish this up, and then hopefully by the next step we'll be in the studio, start sculpting and rebuilding all the detail. Okay, so we're going to start rebuilding the body now. Up here with the neck, since I cut out a lot, I'm actually working on another item right now that I was redoing some magnets. And usually when I do magnets, most of the time I use Magic Sculpt, which is this stuff here. Magic Sculpt is really better for, you know, building up armature stuff and filling in areas and magnets and stuff like that, I find, whereas this Eve's Fix-It stuff is better for just sculpting stuff and sanding. So since I got a little bit of this Magic Sculpt left, I'm going to fill in some of the Dremel work that I did back here, and then I'm also going to kind of sort of rebuild up this neck with the Magic Sculpt, and that should work out pretty good there. But then once I get a chance, we're going to mix up some Fix-It Sculpt, and we're going to start doing all the detailing back, and work out the chest to make that bigger, and work out all this and make this seamed up, so this way I could sand it down and we can start working on the outfit. Okay, so the other day when I was doing the magic sculpt, I did fill up the magic sculpt here around the collar just to get this done up in here. I figure I'm gonna have to get some solidness up here to make the head removable, or make it so I can actually glue it in at the end. And because I lost all that collar detail, it's better to kind of just rework it and make my own collar anyway. So we're gonna use the base of the collar but kind of rework it. So, and I'm not really worried about this part over here, this mess up, because this is probably going to end up getting covered anyway once I actually get the head and fixing the hair. Because the way I want to set it up is when the hair sits on her, because it's not coming down and glued into the back here anymore, I don't want to make it too top heavy or fall off and stuff. So we're going to try to set it up where when we put her shell and tail in the back, the hair kind of sits on those pieces as well. So we got to kind of work that out. But I was able to use some of my A's Fix-It sculpt the other night, and I was able to rebuild the bottom of her, so I got all this detail back, so we're now at a good spot where we can start building up the outfit once we get her chest done. So when I was in the garage, I just used my regular sandpapers. I have the 3M foams, rough, fine. I have regular sandpaper and rough sandpaper, and I just basically sat down and I sanded all this down and I smoothed it out. I still have to use my filler primer and smooth it all out with the primer and start drawing where we're going to put the outfit. But for right now, it's just basically getting that bare, you know, form done. So there's a little spot right here I have to fill up because it's kind of, when I built it here and I built it here, it didn't work right here. So when I start working on the chest, I'll save a little extra piece to kind of fill up here, and then I can sand that down and smooth it all out. I did have to kind of work out this a little bit extra, this V area here with the sandpaper, but once I put on the outfit and I work out some wrinkles and stuff, that some of that might go away. But we're in a good position, and I think the last step is once we get this chest done, we get the bottom half done, and we start planning out the outfit, I'm going to have to set up this arm here. I'm going to make this removable just for paint work and sculpt work, but at the end I'm going to glue this in at the end, because normally I would do like if the arm was kind of broken off here for some reason, I would make this one removable, where you just, you know, set up with a steel rod and a magnet and make it removable. But for this, it's going to be easier to glue it in. So that's kind of my plan so far. Hopefully maybe later tonight we can work on the upper chest, get that done. So this way later in the week when I'm in the garage doing a lot of kit work and sanding and chopping, I can actually throw this into the mix and get this going as well too. Okay, so I just built that out. I'm gonna have to let this pretty much cure up for the night and then fine tune it tomorrow with sanding. I had a little bit of extra ace back here around the neck just to kind of fill that in. I put a little piece over here to fix this up. So while I still have a little bit of extra A's, there's things that we won't see. So we're not going to see the belly button. So we might as well just put a little A's in there and fill it in now, because there's no sense in leaving it there and then dealing with it later. So this way I can actually just put this here, fill that in, and then it's good to go for when we start doing the outfit. Now, just to give them, I don't really want to mess with it anymore now. I was going to do some drawing on it, but it's better when I actually prime it up. I'll be able to do some sketching and stuff. So I'm looking online to some of the drawings and stuff that I posted before. I'm just trying to plan some stuff out. I'm probably going to have to also get ready and order some of these spikes. I'm going to need a lot more than what I got. I'm going to see if there's a little bit smaller ones, but I think the ones I got will probably be perfectly in scale. So I got to order a bunch of those, and then I'll go over exactly how to work out the spikes and how I set them up. As I'm looking at this stuff, also online, I think I'm going to change up these shoes a little bit too. We're not going to keep them like that. I think what I'll do is I'll make them a little bit thicker heels. And we're definitely going to fill this in, and then maybe what I'll do is something else around here, because we're also going to put spikes here too. I've seen some drawings have some spikes here and some don't, but I think it'd be kind of cool. We're just going to, have these metal spikes all over on the boots, the outfit, well, not the outfit, we got the wristbands, the arm guards, and the neck, and then we'll have spikes here and spikes here. So I think it'd be kind of cool to have all these metal spikes with the black outfit and stuff. I also was looking at the hair too, so we may have to do some tweaks to the hair too. Now that I'm seeing the different styles, but I think once we get through all that hump and get that stuff going, we'll look pretty good. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Okay, so after I dremeled out the hole over here in the back for that arm, I dremeled out a little bit around the neck piece. I sanded down some of this area, and then what I did is I sanded all this down here up over her chest, and I did some primer this morning. So it's kind of like the afternoon right now, and it's a really nice day, so I figured let's get some primer on her now so I can start finding some errors. So we do have a lot of errors on her, but what I like to do is when I have some primer on it, just to give me an idea where I'm going with the item, I have blue mechanical pencil lead. I like to use blue because it goes on easier than regular lead, and it doesn't get as messy. I find that using just regular lead pencil gets very dusty when you go to sand it, because you don't really erase this. If you get some, some 3M sandpaper, if you didn't like a line, you could just kind of sand it off, and it's kind of like erasing it, but you still have a little bit of primer showing, as you can kind of see. So then you can kind of rework your line. The line work is giving me a visual of where I'm going with this, and also it helps me too when I start layering thin A's around here to create the outfit. So what I'm going to do now is we have a lot of errors, like maybe some like cuts around here. We got some stuff that's not blended correctly up there around the chest. So I have a Tamiya putty, and what I do is I have my little pencil, rubber pencil thing, and basically what I just start doing is filling in all these areas that are messed up. Now some areas that are really bad, like this right over here, you probably won't be able to see it in the camera, but right here there's some really mess ups here. This has got to get sanded down. So what I'll kind of do is I'll just throw a lot of this around here like so, and this will give me an idea of where I got to kind of sand down and really fix. Stuff like that. Also, like in the belly button area, it's not completely smooth, so this will help fill in some of this as well. The stuff fills in fairly well, and it's fairly easy to sand down too. It doesn't really cause a lot of issues. So let me set up the camera, I'll show you some other stuff that I gotta fill in. Okay, so around the chest over here, you might be able to see it now with the camera. There's a little bit of a loop right here that just didn't blend out correctly the way I wanted it to. So this is a good chance to kind of get in here with the putty and sort of fill it in. Now if there's ever a spot that I notice is really, really bad that I can't fill in with this putty, because this putty can only go so far too. This is more for finer detail stuff, helping me find some areas. It also helps to kind of go into some crevices that I can't get A's into and then try to fill in. So it's really good for stuff like this. This will kind of, and I throw it on a little thick too because I want to sand it all down. The only problem with this stuff is the thicker you let it put on, a little bit more you got to dry. But it dries fairly fast if you do thin layers. So if you just do like a thin layer like that and let it dry, like in 5-10 minutes you can actually do quick another layer. It's also good if you want to get in between here because this wasn't seamed up correctly either. And it's a little bit of a lighter gray than the gray primer, so that works out pretty cool. It's easy to sand, it's pretty durable. You can paint right over it. You can prime it back up and keep going. So I have to go over a lot of areas like this to kind of get some areas and stuff. So I'll fill in a lot of these stuff and then we'll come back. Alright, so I did a lot of the putty work. I don't know if you can really see it too well. If I kind of turn the camera, it's around here and there. So what I like to do is I like to use a flashlight and I kind of come around the area. It's just a little cheap flashlight like this. And what it does is it helps me find some areas and nicks and scratches that you might not really see too well. I know it's a little blurry, but I also did around here as well. So you can kind of see starting to build up some of these areas I'm missing. A little bit around here as well. Stuff like this. So it's just a matter of just keeping doing the putty work and just fixing up some of these areas that I'm seeing that are just really messy. Most of the biggest areas that I have to worry about is over in here. So what I'll probably do next is let this kind of dry up a bit, only because the primer was done this morning. Even though it dries in like 20 minutes, I still like to give it a little bit longer. I put a lot of thick putty here, so I'm going to let that dry. So I'm actually going to make lunch, and I got a little heater that I put on. It's starting to get cold in the studio because of the weather. And what I'll do is I'll probably just put it in front of the heater a little bit, just to kind of dry all this up. A lot of this putty will actually come sanded off. But what it does is it starts to help me get my smoothest going around. So a lot will come off, but as I'm sanding it down, I'll start to see where some putty is actually staying. And I'll start to get some of the resin showing and the Ave showing. So this way it lets me know if I have to do another layer of putty. I also, with the flashlight, it helps me see a lot of scratches on the item. Sometimes there's a lot of scratches, especially doing the waist area here when we took off the shorts. So it might not look good in the camera, but when you hit it with the flashlight, you see a lot of scratches. So what that's telling me is, once I sand all this down, I have to do another coat of primer. I'll probably do some wet sanding, do another coat of primer, and get it really nice and smooth. So this way when we start doing the outfit, I don't have to really worry about all scratches up in here between the skin and the outfit. It's better to get it all smoothed out now to do the outfit. So this way you don't have to worry about it down the line. Alright, so before we go on sanding up the rest of the body on her, we're going to put a little piece of peg in here, so this way we can have something to glue in the arm when we're all done. So sometimes I use solid pieces of metal, and sometimes I got these hollow brass pieces. We're just going to use this hollow one only because I had it sitting there on the table and it's been perfect size. So we can just fill it in with some Aves. So this is some extra regular black Aves that I've had sitting around working on some stuff earlier. So we figure we might as well utilize this while we have it. So just put this in there like so. What we'll do here is we'll just fill this in so it doesn't stay hollow. Just throw some Aves in there like this. And then put this piece in like so. Now it doesn't have to be too long of a peg, only because we're going to have to, hopefully this is going to be good enough where we can actually slide it into the arm and put it on without it hitting anything. If it is too long, I'll probably have to grind it down. That's kind of what I really wanted to do the hollowness for. Because if I did a solid piece and they try to grind it down, it gets hot and it'll heat up the resin. So we don't want to go that far with it. So for now we're just going to use this. So just make sure it's center. Once this cures up, it'll be a nice key for the arm. And the reason why I'm not using a circle one and a square one is because when we put it in, we want the square to kind of sit. If you do a circle one and by accident you move it or you grab it the wrong way, it'll twist on you. So it's better to have something like a square piece or something that's not perfect circle. You don't want it to twist on you. It doesn't have to be pretty because it's going to get covered up anyway with the arm piece with the spikes. But so we'll let this sit overnight, and then hopefully by tomorrow, once we have her all sanded up and ready to go, we can plan this out, get this set up, and then we can start working on the outfit and finish her up. Alright, so I just want to do a quick update and show you guys what's going on. So I was in the garage today. I'm doing a lot of sand work, priming and stuff on items. It's a beautiful day, so we're getting a lot of stuff done. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update, show you two things. One's a little bit of an issue, nothing major, but the other thing is showing you what happens when you use the putty work with Aves. So you can see over here this little spot right there of gray. So what we do is when I was sanding this down, I was going to there and I was going nice and smooth. So this putty work filled in this area. So now this is all nice and smooth to the touch. It's all nice and even. And what I'll do is I'll do one more thing of primer before tonight, close up tonight. And then I'll come back tomorrow just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But you can also see I filled in here a little bit too. I smoothed out that area. Now, the other issue I run into is sometimes I don't always grind out the resin and I miss a spot, or I realize that maybe I should have went a little bit deeper. This right here, see this little patch of resin that's sticking out here? This resin is polystone, which is basically resin mixed with stone powder to make it very hard. Some resins seem to be very, very strong compared to other resins. Sometimes are softer. It all depends what the factory does or whatever goes on. This one is a very, very strong resin. So what happens is whenever you fill in Aves around this type of resin and then you use something like this sandpaper to sand it down, the Aves is a little bit softer when cured. It's still hard as it's hard like rock, like cured up Aves. But what happens is it's easier to sand it than this actually polystone. So when I'm sanding this down, I'm sanding the Aves faster, like 2 or 3 times more than actual this. I'm only like polishing that. So when you run your finger across here, what it is, it's kind of like you're running your finger down and then you feel a little bit of a bump and then you come back down. And if I keep just sanding and sanding and sanding, I'm going to keep sanding the Aves more than I'm sanding the resin. I mean, I will be sanding this resin down, but it's still bumpy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go into the garage and I'm going to grind this out, this area here, and then I'm going to get some Aves, fill it in, and then tomorrow I can smooth it all out and get it to where I want it to be. It's just one of those things I've come across time and time again when I do my customs, that you just, sometimes it's better just to grind everything away and then rebuild the area from scratch. You know, when I did the area over here and I sanded all this down with just the resin, it's fine because I'm sanding resin with resin so I can get it to where I want it. And then if I do that putty work in certain areas, it works out fine. But for this one right here, it's just not working out. I just can't get it because I need to get a specific kind of curve here. And I just got to grind this out. So I'm going to grind that out. I'll fill it in with some Aves. And then hopefully by next point of this, we'll at least maybe be able to start planning out the arm and outfit. Alright, so I put some Magic Sculpt in here since this peg is pretty much all set, and I went into the garage and I used baby powder only because I didn't film it, because putting the baby powder on there and getting the dust all over the place, it would have just kind of clouded up the camera. So it's just a matter of putting the baby powder on there and making it loose, so this way when you put in the Magic Sculpt it doesn't stick, so you get sort of like a little key square like so. What I need to do is I need to let this kind of cure up a little bit, because what I did is I put a lot of primer on it and I wasn't paying attention, just kind of in the zone grabbing stuff, and I got to kind of dry this up and sand it down. I got some marks over there because I put a lot of primer on it to kind of get all these scratches out, but the arm goes on there pretty well. There was a little bit of a crack on the finger here, so I have to glue that and repair it. I guess that must have happened when I kind of pulled it apart. And I didn't really see the crack there until I just kind of put my finger over there and it just kind of fell off. So, but that's an easy fix. So the other thing too is now that I'm looking at the fingers, I'll probably try to make the fingernails a little bit longer too as I progress on this. But so what I'm going to do next is probably secure up this finger a little bit and kind of sand this down, because her bracelets are only, you know, just so thick. They're not this thick here, so I got to kind of take this down. So I could probably go in the garage now and start working out this a little bit here and there, and then kind of rebuild the arm and then build a bracelet around there. This bracelet here is going to be brought down just a little bit underneath here once this kind of cures up and I can sand this down. So this way when you put the arm in, the arm kind of goes underneath the bracelet a little bit, or even to the bracelet, and then that'll work out pretty well. I also did draw up some of the line work on her outfit just to see where the outfit's going to hit. So this way when I kind of get all this fixed up, I could put a little bit of A's around here and I could put the fingers on, and I can make it a little bit like wrinkly, like she's kind of hitting the wrinkles a little bit on the outfit. So this way when I glue it in at the end, it works out pretty well. Now the only thing I'm making sure though is that there's a little bit of a gap in here. It's not a perfect square, just enough where I can throw some glue in there and glue this in and I'm good. But if I make it too tight right now, what'll happen is it'll be very hard to kind of put this in. So I got to kind of get another square rod and kind of thicken this up and make this a little bit thicker. But I'm also going to put this in front of a heater, so this way I could dry this down and sand it up. Now the other thing too, what I'm thinking of doing is I'm probably going to try to work out the outfit here where it seems like it's pushing it and then the chest kind of comes around a little bit. So I don't want it to be kind of a complete perfect roundness. I want to kind of give it like this is kind of tight and they're big. That's what I'm trying to go for on it. So we'll kind of just keep plugging away on that stuff. But if we could get this arm finished up here before this weekend, then we can just start plugging away and getting a lot of other stuff done.